Welcome to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. Hello, my beautiful friends. How are you? Welcome to the Becoming You show. I'm your host, Leah Rowling, and I am really glad you're here. I'm always glad you're here. I'm always glad that in a world where you could be doing a lot of other things, there's no shortage of all the to-dos and all the things that you could be doing, that you're here, that you're listening in on this conversation because you care about your growth and you care about how you show up for other people and you care about the effectiveness of your leadership. And so I am so grateful that you're here. I really do. I envision all of you like right here in my room. Like, and you're right here and you're right here and you're right here. And I just get giddy. So thank you. We are going to start with something, a question, a couple of them. Sometimes I start with them. How is the year going? How is the year going so far? And not how it looks from the outside. I really want you to go a little deeper with me today. How does it feel to live on the inside? No judgment, no shame, but how does it feel to be you? How does it feel? How are you doing with the goals that you set? The intentions, the resolutions, the boarding, the affirmations, the directives, whatever it is that you brought into this year with a level of intentionality, okay? The ones that mattered, right? When you wrote them down or thought through them or shared them. The ones that felt really true at the time. And when I ask that question, I'm not asking it from a standpoint of, were you successful? Are you successful so far? Or are you not successful, right? I'm not asking, are you on track or off track? I mean, where have things maybe slowly softened, right? Where did that intention, right, that enthusiasm quietly turn into, I'm just going to call it flexibility? Like, where did your commitment with the things that you either wrote about, said about, shared about, etc., become, I'll get back to it? Because what I've noticed in myself and in others is this. Most people don't fail their goals, their intentions, because of an obvious resistance. They don't get stopped by big obstacles or loud oppositions most of the time. What happens is they kind of drift. They begin to make small, very teeny accommodations. They choose social ease and they choose like an emotional convenience. In a sense, they quietly negotiate with their own potential. And if this lands for you, it means that you're human. It also means that you're in the right conversation, because we're going to talk today about why it is that we do that. And I'm calling it soft sabotage. It isn't loud. It isn't obvious. It doesn't look like success. It doesn't look like failure. It doesn't look like, whoa, I'm on track, or whoa, I'm off track. It's just there's a miss. There's a miss in your ability to confidently project that level of courage, that level of discipline, that level of aspiration, that level of ambition, that level of I've got this. And so we're going to talk about why. And my hopes in revealing the why, we'll have a tool to be able to get it back if it has been quietly being negotiated out of your life plan. So most people, I would say, expect resistance, okay, to sound like opposition. I'm calling it soft sabotage, okay? Most people think that sabotaging looks like obvious pushback, obvious disagreement, obvious criticism, okay? But what they don't expect is the resistance that I'm calling today soft sabotage that sounds like care. It sounds like concern. It sounds like encouragement. It sounds like realisticness. It sounds like reasonableness. Soft sabotage isn't malicious per se, it's incredibly subtle. And it doesn't always come from other people, although it does, and we're going to talk about that. It also comes from our own internal language without judgment, without shame. That is not required here for this conversation. How often have you found yourself, just in the few short weeks that we've been in this year so far, have you negotiated with your potential by way of your own internal language that might say something like this? I've had a really long day, so I can go off plan, or I'm just going to do this tomorrow, or it's been kind of a hard season, so I'm just going to give myself some grace. Okay. Um, you're not, this isn't really an overindulgent, right? This is a choice. You'll choose differently tomorrow. Okay. This one thing that I'm going to choose right now isn't really the problem. And again, I want to be clear here, friends. This is not, I'm not anti-pleasure. I am not anti-rest, right? This is not anti-humanity. This is about when comfort starts overruling will. This is when your choice is against the very intention that you set. Okay? When your preferences quietly take the steering wheel from the life that you are efforting to command. When your preferences are louder than your intention. That is what I'm talking about as it relates to soft sabotage. So I wanted to bring, like in so many of these podcasts, up, I wanted to bring this conversation to you because I see it. I've seen it in my own life, and I've seen it as I've been having conversations with my clients and in our membership. And if you're not in the membership, come to the membership, you guys. It's innerboardsuite.com membership. It's $296 for the entire year. The entire year. It's a no-brainer. I want to see you in there. But these are the conversations that we're having in there. We're going a little deeper, but not a little, a lot deeper. So this is how it shows up, like in real life. Let's just say you decide intentionally as the year began that you don't want to drink. Like you don't want to drink for a while, maybe not forever, right? Not as an identity, but just because you want to feel clearer, just because you know that when you drink, you struggle maybe with brain fog the next day. Maybe you have a hard time accessing your words. Maybe you just know that you sleep better. Maybe you track yourself with your Aura ring. It doesn't, you don't have to have a reason, you know. Maybe you track yourself with an Aura ring and you know, holy smokes, the days that I drink, the nights that I drink, my HRV plummets. So maybe you just wanted an intention that, you know what, I'm just gonna lay off drinking. for a bit, right? Um, and then you go out with your friends. And suddenly there's questions like, wait a second here. Just last year you were drinking. What happened? Are you pregnant? Are you like, come on, just one. Like, don't make this weird, right? And maybe they don't say anything. You just make it weird. And so you drink. Not because you want to, but because you don't want the questions. You don't want the attention. You don't want to have to explain yourself. That's soft sabotage. There's no pressure there. There's no force. No one's handcuffing you and making you feel uncomfortable, right? And this doesn't only happen with alcohol, it happens with food, it happens with sleep, it happens with your training in the gym, it happens with you saying no, right? You stay up later than you want to watch that next episode of the Netflix because that's what your partner wants to do and you don't want to look lame. And you don't want to have the what would might be an uncomfortable conversation by telling him and explaining him that you're prioritizing sleep this year because that's hard, right? You eat in ways that don't align just because you don't want to take that extra step to make something that matters for you and your health this year. You want to fit in and you want to make everybody else more comfortable than your own self comfortable, right? You skip the thing that you committed to because it was just easier to keep the peace with everyone else. All of that is soft sabotage. And again, it's not because you changed your mind, but because it was easier to not stand apart. And over time, the message compounds. Over time, that message gets louder. And what you end up hearing and then therefore becoming and then executing on is that it's just safer to blend in. It's just safer to be uncomfortable than to create discomfort for others. It's just safer to do that than to really stay aligned with conscious will on the things that I decided at the very beginning of the year that I was going to be more intentional about. Okay. This also shows up, and I've had a couple of conversations of as of late about friendships. You know, maybe friendships that don't evolve, right? Maybe you are around people who stay negative, and maybe you're in text strands with people that are just not as positive. They speak circumstances as facts. They rehearse problems like scripts. There's always something wrong. There is always something to judge, and you feel it, right? The moment where you could elevate the conversation, you could maybe challenge the dialogue, you could offer up a different perspective, a different insight. You could reframe it. You could tell the truth of how you see it, but you don't, right? Maybe you nod if you're in person, right? You read if it's via text, you listen. You say maybe just enough to stay connected. Not not because you agree, but because you don't want again to make anyone uncomfortable. You don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to ruffle the feathers. Right? You want to remain in likability. That's soft sabotage. You didn't betray them. Check. But you did betray your own voice. And the longer that we stay quiet, the harder it really is to speak. And then belonging becomes conditional on shrinking. I know this one very well. And I want to invite you to consider that there's another way. And I'm going to get to that, but I want to offer up where we're good. One other area that this shows up, okay? Within our families, okay? Family, spouses, children, siblings, parents, it often sounds the most loving. This is where it's really sneaky sabotage, okay? Because we don't even recognize it as sabotaging, and it can be most disorienting, okay? They say this is just too much for you. You're just doing too much. You're going to burn out. And sometimes that's wisdom, but sometimes it's projection. They have a different relationship with pressure, right? For them, pressure equals danger. For you, pressure equals clarity. Pressure equals privilege. Pressure equals pursuing something passionately. That's pressure. Pressure organizes you. It sharpens your focus. It makes you feel alive. It allows for that next level of enthusiasm for life. Okay? So when they say, you don't need to push, you need more time, you need more breaks, you work too hard. Is this really what you want? It seems like a lot, Leah. What they really mean to say is that I wouldn't choose this for my life. When they say you work too hard, when they say you push too hard, when they say that there's got to be a different way, what they are saying is that I wouldn't choose to work that hard. I wouldn't choose the way that you are navigating the world. What they're saying is, I don't understand. And what I want you to remind yourself is that they don't have to. They don't have to understand. They have to understand their life for their life. You get to understand your life for yours. And so soft sabotage um, often comes from people who love you deeply, but don't understand your relationship with challenge. They don't understand your relationship with pressure. They don't understand the capacity of you. And this can be tricky with a partner, maybe even trickier with a partner. Maybe they say, I miss you, or you're always working, or can't it wait, or do you really need to do this right now? Or, right? And here's the tension that comes from that. And again, I'm not there could be wisdom in that too. Only you know your truth. Okay? But the tension comes about because you care about them and you care about the relationship and you don't want to choose, right? Ambition. You don't want to choose your level of disciplined intentionality. You don't want to choose your commitment over connection. And so we minimize, we delay, we downplay what matters. Not because they asked you to quit. Those words never came out, but because again, you didn't want to rock the boat. You didn't want to ruffle feathers. You don't want to bring your commitment to the conversation in order to connect. That's soft sabotage. That's you not being onto yourself, and that's you letting yourself off the hook. And what happens then is sometimes when we let ourselves off of the hook for our own commitments, we like to blame that on other people. We blame that on the family that doesn't understand. We blame that on the friends that have not evolved to their capacity, that stay in circumstance, that haven't navigated this inner leadership work that we do here. We blame it on them. And what I want to remind you of is you cannot be controlled without your permission. They're not trying to control you. You cannot be manipulated without your permission. They're not trying to manipulate you. What's happening is just unspoken accommodation. We're just accommodating. And when you accommodate for so long, you begin to believe that you don't belong. You as your most kind of authentic being, you don't belong because you're the one that is manipulating in order to fit in. Okay. And over time, resentment then doesn't come from what other people are doing or not doing. Resentment comes from you self silencing yourself, not saying what needs to be said, not honoring the commitments that you made to yourself, rather honoring their preferences. So when we think about the most convincing voice of all, right? As if that wasn't enough, friends. As if all the soft sabotaging from other people wasn't enough, from our friends, from our families, from our parents, from our siblings, from our spouses. We have the most convincing voice of all, our own. It looks like this. It might sound like this. You deserve this. You've earned this. You can start tomorrow. It's no problem. You're already so disciplined. I remember when I did Starbucks every single day, what I would tell myself was, Leah, you don't have any other vice. You don't do anything. You don't drink, you don't do drugs, you don't smoke, you don't shop. So you can have this Starbucks. And it was against my will. So I negotiated my commitment with that truth. And it sounded like compassion. You deserve this, honey. You work so hard. Do I? Do I really deserve a characteristic of not holding integrity with the commitment that I've placed, that I chose with this brain of mine, the future loving brain of mine that's like, you don't need the sugar in your drinks. You don't need to spend $7 a day. You extrapolate that over a year, that's not little money, love. That's what this part of my brain was telling me, my prefrontal cortex, because you're not seeing me, I'm pointing to it. But my primitive brain was like, oh, love, we just have to be on to ourselves. Because as I mentioned, that voice can sound like compassion. And sometimes it's just avoidance, right? So aligned self-permission. I want you to think about those words. Aligned, meaning it's aligned with this future loving part of myself. And I'm giving myself permission to delay gratification right now to hook myself up for my future. That hookup honors my will, right? That hookup honors my will. The soft sabotaging from outside, other people, and myself, it overrides it. Rest chosen intentionally restores you. Rest used to escape the commitments, the intention, that erodes trust. That erodes integrity. So you get to just ask yourself, did I choose this or did I kind of slide into it? So I want to end with this. We do not have to burn bridges to grow, but we do have to stop shrinking externally and internally. Leadership can sound really simple. It looks like this. I'm not drinking tonight. Thanks. You guys enjoy. I see that differently. I understand that you don't understand. You don't need to understand. It's okay. I'm okay with pressure. This matters to me. It doesn't have to matter to you, but it matters to me. Not dramatic, not big, boisterous, just clean. Clarity, your own personal clarity, it doesn't reject people. It just reveals where alignment exists. So, not all support is aligned. We have to know that. Not all resistance is opposition, right? And not all love knows how to grow with you. And that doesn't make anyone wrong, but it does require your leadership. It does require you being onto yourself, having your own back, being able to say what needs to be said, not diminishing and shrinking to benefit everybody else's comfort. That's what leadership requires. So, next week, we're going to take this inward and we're going to talk about the ROI, the return on investment of self, how to measure growth beyond productivity, beyond validation, and why inner returns are the only ones that actually compound. It's going to be kind of an interesting conversation. I'm going to flip a lot of things for you, hopefully provide some insights for you that are new this year. So until then, I want you to notice, where are you accommodating instead of choosing intentionally? Because this work of becoming on purpose requires us to stop negotiating with our own will. So I'll see you next week. Have a beautiful one, everybody. Take care. Mwah. Bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.